There was a big shake-up at the Nigerian Stock Exchange earlier this month after the entire council, including its president and director general, was sacked by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Emmanuel Ikazoboh, a former accountant at Deloitte, was made interim director general of the exchange. He joins me now from our Lagos studio. Emmanuel, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, Emmanuel, you're heading up the NSE for an interim period. Any idea how long that's going to be before we have a new council, president and DG at the NSE?
Well, we do not have a clear mandate as to how long, but we are supposed to be there as short as possible to put in place a new DG and the executive team who will take over from us. But in the meantime, we are to ensure that we have the forensic audit completed and we get a reputable firm of consultants who have started an auditable and transparent process in the selection of the DG and the executive directors.
Well, succession planning was obviously one of the criticisms levelled at the previous council, and I suppose this is highlighted by the fact that they had to bring you in as an interim DG. Is the NSE out of crisis mode for the moment?
Well, the NSE, quite honestly, is not as terrible as it's portrayed out there. I haven't gotten in. Management is not as bad, but the issue was that we had a governance issue which had to be addressed. And my major priority as soon as I came in was to calm the storm in the marketplace as a result of the accusation and counter-accusations, which created some credibility problem for the exchange and confidence in the marketplace. And then, well, the next thing we needed to do is to ensure that we look at the corporate governance structure and ensure that a well-established structure is put in place for the long-term development of the market.
Emmanuel, how did it get so out of control at the NSE? Have you had a look at that? I know you are doing forensic audits and things at the moment, but is there any idea when this all started and how it got so bad?
Well, the forensic audit has just started, actually. And I do not really want to interfere with what is going on because I'm also working on trying to determine the financial health of the exchange. So as soon as, well, the Securities and Exchange Commission have even given a mandate to the consultants, that's KPMG, who are the forensic auditors, to give us an interim report within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we're looking forward to that.
Well, you mentioned the financial health of the exchange, and of course it has been reported that the NSE is in deficit, hasn't been able to pay all of its creditors. Can it meet its financial commitments or obligations at this time? Does it need a bailout from the federal government?
Well, it's not as bad as it's been portrayed, like I said, but what is going to happen, I do not know what the financial health is. We're still working on all the documentations. I agreed we have some financial mismanagement we've discovered, but that I cannot say categorically it has resulted in a situation where we will need some funding from government.
When would you expect to have a clearer picture of the financial situation at the exchange?
I believe by mid-September we should be in a position to let everyone know, especially the stakeholders, about the financial health of the institution.
Of course, the capital markets regulator has really taken a tougher approach since Arun Maote took over in January. This was meant to restore confidence to Nigeria's markets, including the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Is it working? Have you seen investor confidence starting to return to the market? Yes,
I have. I think in the last week or so, you'll have realized that the market went up in the first 2 days when there was the intervention by SEC. But well, you also notice that globally, the market has been going down because this is the period in which you do not have very much activities in the global capital market space, and which is also a reflection of what is going on in our own local market. But I believe once the market, starts booming again, which will be in the next few months, I believe investor confidence will then be assessed based on how the market goes at the time.
Well, what sort of impact do you think this has had on trading in the Nigerian stock market over the past while? Because, of course, last year we saw a nice upsurge in markets across the globe. Did Nigeria get the full benefits out of that because of the problems that you had at the NSE?
No, the market in Nigeria blossomed, you'll realize, even up till the time when the global crisis happened. The only issue is that we had some crisis in the exchange which affected the credibility of the exchange itself, and that affected investor confidence. But now that is now returning, and I've had a series of meetings with institutional investors. I've had discussions with the various stakeholders, the stockbroking houses, and I've been getting a lot of cooperation, and everyone seems happy about the intervention. And I'm sure as soon as the forensic audit is completed, we will let the stakeholders know the outcome. And so this hype about the stock exchange being, having a credibility problem will be diffused, because we will now zero in as to who in management is responsible for whatever has been attributed to the confidence issue with the exchange.
Of course, you also mentioned weak regulation. Of course, companies are reported not to have been reporting properly back to the exchange. There's been impunity for offenders. They've clouded the exchange's image. I mean, is all this going to be rooted out? Will companies also be taken to task from here on for not reporting properly to the exchange?
That is one of the very first priorities for this interim administration. In fact, just before this interview, I've been meeting with my various senior management team, and we're trying to ensure that the rules and regulations of the exchange are strictly adhered to. We are going to ensure that disclosure and frequency of submission of interim and final reports of listed and publicly quoted companies follow the rules. Again, we are also in discussion with Nigerian Accounting Standards Board to ensure that even the disclosure requirements are improved upon, and the level of details that will be disclosed in both quarterly and final reports are improved upon. So these, I believe, will give informed information to the investing public for them to make informed decision as to what stocks they want to invest in and the pricing of the stocks.
Emmanuel, just finally, the screening process for the 131 people who have applied for the DG position is expected to start next week. When would you expect to announce a new DG for the NSE?
Well, like I said, we want it to be as transparent as possible. So we do not really, a selection committee has just been put in place, and the council is meeting next week to agree on the interviewing panel. So the interviewing panel will have to conduct the interviews, and a team of about 5 candidates will be made available to the council, from which a selection of the DG and the executive team will be done. How long that will take is dependent on the consultants managing it. But I want to make it clear that as soon as a new DG and the executive team is selected, then my work is done and I'll be off.